Hey, today I'm going to talk about 3 chick flicks from the aughts. And the names of those 3 movies are Enchanted, The Time Traveler's Wife, and 2 Weeks Notice. First up is Enchanted. This is a 2007 Disney movie starring Amy Adams, just like the most adorable ever. And the basic premise is it's kind of a live action twist on the classic Disney princess setup thing. It's really a mishmash of a bunch of the Disney princess stories, but in a really good way. I think it's been described as like a love letter to Disney princesses, and that's a perfect description of this. Amy Adams is going to marry the prince, and when she does, the evil stepmother of the prince won't be queen anymore, so she banishes Amy Adams to the real world, and shenanigans ensue. And while there, she learns that, magical lovey-dove stuff is good, but we also need to be a realist. And the guy that she falls in love with realizes the opposite. And that's great. I really love this story. It's a very well-told story that goes along with a lot of tropes, but then subverts them when it really suits the story, and that's great. I also really love that basically all of the characters have like a little arc. Like even Peter Pettigrew has an arc. I really wasn't expecting that, but that was really, really well done. It's definitely a story where I was able to call story beats out, but it's so charming and delightful that you don't mind that you can tell where the story's going, which I always appreciate. The big standout for me was definitely James Marsden. He is just crazy beautiful in this movie. Like, how the hell is this man so gorgeous? Like, he is not handsome, he is not attractive, he is BEA beautiful. Like, look at that man. Take a close look at that man. What? And he is also just so hilarious in this movie. I loved him so much. I want to watch more of his movies, but I think I've seen all of them, so damn it. But yeah, I can definitely see how this is a much-loved modern classic. It was a good, fun time, and I'm very much so looking forward to watching it again one day. If you somehow haven't seen it like I have, it's definitely worth a watch. Next up is The Time Traveler's Wife. This is a 2009 movie starring Rachel McAdams. The basic premise is what the title suggests. It's about this couple where the husband inadvertently time travels for the entire movie. I found this movie really divisive for me because there's certain elements of the movie I crazy love, and there's other parts of it where I'm just like, this is gross and disgusting. Why is this in this movie? I'm gonna start with the positive stuff first. I really liked the time traveler's relationship with his mother. That was very, very touching, especially the scene on the train. That was great. That scene brought me close to tears. I also really loved his relationship with his daughter. That was just so beautiful and so interesting and really tied the whole thing full circle with his mom. I also really, really loved that they treated his randomly going back and forward in time as like a genetic disorder. Like, it's just something he can't control, and it serves as a perfect metaphor for any genetic disorder that greatly affects your life and the people around you. That being said, that leads into what I didn't like about this movie, and that was how Rachel McAdams' character got so angry at the time traveler for his just lack of being around all the time and constantly disappearing. She knew about this going into this relationship years before they were even a thing. She knew that this was a thing that he has to deal with all the time, and she had accepted that up until a few years into their marriage. Then she's like, no, you suck as a person, you need to do better, even though he has literally no control over this. As much as that angers me, it does not compare to how upsetting it is this grown-ass adult who's like late 30s, early 40s, inadvertently travels back in time to when she is a child and then grooms her. He basically does textbook definition grooming her. He constantly has these little one-on-one picnics with her as a child where they occasionally talk about how they'll be married in the future. Apparently in the book it's kind of even worse because on her 18th birthday they have sex for the first time. And it's like they ripped the definition of grooming out of a dictionary and put it onto a screenplay and pretended that it's a good thing. I don't get how they did that. I don't get how so many people approve of this. Like, even the first scene where he goes back and meets her as a little kid, like, everything he says is super creepy, removing the context that we know it all turns out well. He does not say anything that you should say to a child. It's gross. So yeah, so that's why this movie frustrates me, because it has some moments that I'm like, I'm on the brink of tears of, and it's got other moments where I'm just completely and utterly disgusted at whoever came up with the ideas for this movie. So I put it in the middle. And lastly is 2 Weeks Notice. This is a 2002 movie starring Sandra Bullock and Hugh Grant. The basic premise is that Hugh Grant needs a new lawyer, and after some quirkiness, he ends up getting Sandra Bullock as his lawyer, and then they hit it off. I would really describe this movie as discount miscongeniality. Like, it has plenty of the same charm as that movie, but it doesn't hit the same levels of it. Hugh Grant is definitely the standout here. His charm definitely shines through the entire thing, and he really carried the movie for me. I felt like Sandra Bullock just did an imitation of her performance from Miscongeniality, but couldn't quite get it. So, like, she was cute at times, but it wasn't enough to, like, save it. Also, just like the premise of the movie felt very loosey-goosey, because like a lot of time goes by in this movie, even when they do eventually get to the point where she's like, I'm putting in my 2 weeks notice. And then he's like, well, actually you need to wait like a little bit, because like our original deal is for you to wait till this thing happens. And she's like, oh yeah, you're right, so that won't be 2 weeks then. And then an undisclosed amount of time goes by, and then she's suddenly not working for him anymore. I potentially just missed something there, but also I don't really care. But the thing that kind of killed it the most for me was all of its references to Donald Trump, which I have a story about too. So I was watching this movie at a basketball tournament that I was working at. Spoilers, I work basketball tournaments sometimes. It's a whole thing. I'm not gonna get into that. I was sitting in the corner of a gym with like a bunch of tablets and stuff on me, watching it. And this black ref sees it and thinks it's funny, as he comes over and starts talking to me. And he's like, oh, what you watching? And so I'm like, oh, it's 2 weeks notice. You remember this rom-com classic? And I show him the screen. He's like, oh, okay, yeah, let me talk a little bit more. And then I go back to the movie and I'm like, I missed the last 30 seconds. Let me rewind real quick. And I rewind real quick. And I look at the screen and I discover the 30 seconds that I just showed him are the 30 seconds that Trump is in this movie. And I'm like, please don't hate me, ref. I didn't know. I didn't know. Thankfully, he didn't. It was very fine. We chatted a bunch more later. So yeah, that definitely brought the movie down a bit. I'm not upset that I watched this movie. I don't think I wasted my time. It definitely was a way to waste an afternoon. I definitely don't recommend it though. Like, if you want to watch a good rom-com, just watch Miscongeniality. That movie is a delight, and this movie is a giant pile of okayness. Alrighty, now for today's rankings. First up, we got Enchanted, sitting number 54 in the quite like section. And then after that is The Time Traveler's Wife, sitting number 89 in the liked section. And then bringing up the rear is 2 Weeks Notice, sitting at 116, also in the liked category. And this is a total of 159 movies so far this year.